You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, a little bit further after 9 than it should be here on Pittsburgh Standard Time, not the show, the time frame. Where else would you rather be, Steelers fans, especially with things that are getting kicked off today? But as I always have to say, with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich, Big Bro Scho. How stoked are you for football in shorts, big brother?
Let me start with a good Heidi-ho, good brother Dave. You know what? It's something different.
Yes.
It's something different. So, checking out some footage from things today. Sure, it's just guys running routes and doing some drills and things like that. But you know what? It's been a long time since we've seen guys, even in shorts, shoulder pads, and helmets.
Yeah.
So, they put on the jerseys, the helmets were on, doing some drills.
Yeah.
A lot better than sitting around just talking about it.
Exactly. And not only that, now, not everyone was there. We'll get to that soon enough. But regardless, because this is still voluntary, but this is the first chance of where they can do 11 on 11, which means that they're doing basically what they would do at practice the first few days of training camp. Now, maybe not as much, maybe not the not in pads, just in shells kind of practice for like where they would do 7 shots, or if they would do 2-minute, even anything they did team wise, we get no reports of that. They're not allowed to, no one's allowed to film or anything of those, that stuff during practice. They're allowed to do drill work. So exactly what they did with 11 on 11, we don't know. Who lined up where, we don't know, but we did still get some answers to some things, and you get to hear some players say a few things. That's what's different. And it's the first. I know this isn't going to be the exact same team that takes the field in week 1. There's always somebody else that comes in. And of course, not necessarily all the guys are there, but it's the whole idea of this is the first, iteration of what this roster could be for this season. Because it's not last season. It's the guys have moved on. They drafted players, things of that nature. So it's the first time you're seeing this. I mean, my goodness, there was only 3 quarterbacks of their potential 4 that were there, but none of those 3 guys were here last year. Mason Rudolph was here before, so it's something to see of actually having people out there. And I will say there was some news before it all started. Yeah, that's right.
Uncle Rico. To bring up Brian Miswa says Uncle Rico Rudolph.
Yeah,
with the stash.
Yeah, with the stash. So there was a signing today, which honestly, by the time the Steelers announced it, I didn't realize it. They were probably already practicing, because last year I went back and checked the time with OTAs, and you don't get any reports of anything that's happening or any of the video until after practice is done. Last year, it happened just around 2:00 in the afternoon. So I'm like, okay, I'm good to go, all that. Today, 5 after 12, boom, everything starts coming out. I'm like, I wasn't looking for it yet, but at least I had my day 1 tracker up and ready to go. Because if you want to know, say, hey, what's all this footage you're talking about, or these reports, you can go to steelcurtainnetwork.com, look for the day 1 of phase 3 of OTAs tracker, and I have them all in one spot for you. You don't have to go looking through social media. They're all listed there. I think I had about the perfect amount because it didn't start to bog down, but there was still plenty of good content there. But before they did that, the Steelers added a wide receiver to the roster because they had 1 open spot. And I know a lot of Steelers Nation figured they knew what that open spot was for, But when you're talking about actually getting out there to practice, yes, you know what I'm gonna say.
Talking about practice.
I'm talking about
Yeah, when
practice.
you get out there where you can actually
Not a game.
not a game. When you can get out there to practice, you might as well have all your spots filled. So they added a wide receiver. I'm trying to bring it up because I wrote the article for Steel Curd Network. He's got a hyphenated last name. It was a guy that was at Colorado for 3 years and then transferred for his last 2 years. So that tells, because I'm pretty sure everybody that was at Colorado when they had the change in coaches left. That it was all new, everything. So
I mean,
he finished his
Montana
last-
Lemonius Craig?
What is that? Yes.
Montana Lemonius?
Lemonius. I guess it says it.
Craig.
Lemonius. Okay, yeah. Lemonius Craig. He played
Lemonius.
Lemonius. Okay.
You got all kinds of ways you could say that.
Yeah. Lemon. Wow. Lemon. Wouldn't say that. That'd be funny if that one was right. Sorry, I got distracted. Played his last 2 years at Arizona, was at rookie minicamp on a tryout basis, and then the Steelers added him as their 91st player because remember, they get that exemption. Once again, we get to say the name of Julius Welchoff or however you say it. That's a player that was from Germany.
Okay. Hold on. I got to bring this up just because I have to.
Okay.
Back to Mason Rudolph for a minute.
Okay.
Mason P.I.
There's plenty of that going on with the stash with Mason Rudolph. So they added that wide receiver that gives them 11. I wonder, it's funny because I'm like, why would they add a wide receiver? Well, maybe because they knew that one of them wasn't going to be there. I don't know, but I mean, still 11.
Dude, by the time you're getting to that far down, adding that technically 91st guy, does it really matter the position?
And even when I put it in the article sometimes.
So Dave,
you get people chiming in saying, oh, they could be blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they could be cut before training camp.
Look, it's just had a guy, probably had talked with him some familiarity. Let's bring him in, see what he's got.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just,
See, and for the Steelers to say that, see what he's got, makes sense. That was kind of that was the topic of my unpopular opinion on Sunday. The whole idea of how many times do fans say, "Oh, you got to put this player on the field this year because you got to see what he's got." No, the Steelers can see what they've got without putting them on the field. We have to see him on the field in order to evaluate him. But anyway, there were some players that were missing. But before I say that, Mark Cabale put it out there, and I found it very interesting because I wonder if anybody is going to get caught out on it. He's like, just as a reminder, or maybe it was that he was getting asked a lot of questions. Steelers media is not allowed to comment on who wasn't there unless a different player specifically brings it up. So I think the report of, with TJ Watt not here, seeing Alex Highsmith lead and Nick Herbig leading the outside linebackers, they could have gotten in trouble for that. Because I don't know that anyone had talked about TJ Watt being there. Saying, here's Calvin Austin III in the front of the line for the wide receivers with DK Metcalf not present. That could have created an issue. I didn't see it. I didn't hear anything about it, but I also saw a comment somewhere that they said Darius Slade wasn't there. Guys that are that old, I'm surprised if they're not for these voluntary things. Let's go to TJ Watt for a second. Do you make anything out of TJ Watt not being there?
No.
Me neither.
No.
And I know people are saying, the contract. Oh, the last time he had a contract dispute, he didn't come to OTAs. You know what? He wasn't there for all the OTAs last year when there was no contract issues.
Look, I look at it this way. When you get guys that play at a level and have been in the league as a TJ Watt, and although he was there, wasn't doing much of anything today, Cam Hayward, when you have guys at that level, there was a day and time where you wanted those guys in working on stuff because they weren't necessarily doing it in the off season on their own. But so many guys now are. And if you watch the way TJ Watt plays, I don't think anything that he's doing in his own training regimen isn't covering it.
Yeah.
So, no concern.
So my thing is, don't read. Now, do you want to know when you read into it? Mandatory minicamp.
Yes.
That's 2 weeks from today. Mandatory minicamp. If somebody's not there for mandatory minicamp, then it starts to be something that you could talk about even more. I'm not the least bit concerned about TJ Watt. And actually, as John S. said, and he had a grammatical error in here that he corrected, which I got to give him kudos for that. That John S. said more surprised Cam was there than TJ wasn't.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't expect Cam. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Well, let's just say this.
Now, you know why Cam was there? Cam had nothing else to do and figured, I'm going to go ahead and come in, especially when you had TJ Watt not being there. You know, if he knew TJ wasn't going to be there and Cam had nothing else, he's like, I'm not necessarily going to do anything, but I am going to show up because I'm going to be that veteran presence.
I don't know that I saw Cam doing any drills.
I don't know that I did either.
I didn't notice that. So I'm not shocked at all that he was there, but he was even there with his jersey, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was there in sweats. Honestly. Not even out there doing anything else, but to just be there as a leader. The fact that I saw him talking with his jersey, I don't even know if he had his helmet. Because I didn't actually see him with drill.
It. Nope.
And I'd prefer him not do it. But him being there at all like that doesn't surprise me that he was there. I mean, my goodness, they drafted 2 defensive linemen. You know, those are young guys that you can help get going in the right direction. If for someone like Cam. But there's not a ton that you can glean from what's going on from day one of OTAs. But my goodness, I didn't get to watch all the videos they even had in the article because I had to because I was trying to update the article. I tell you what, later on tonight, after the show and everything, I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on every single one of them because I'm going to take in as much as I can of Steelers football right now.
FYI, I clicked them all.
You clicked them all? You already have a chance to? No, it was, how do I say this? Tuesday evenings, other than this show, is one of the more open evenings for my family. So therefore, sometimes I spend, I'll pick out something for dinner that takes a little bit longer to make, especially if it's something that I can have then for leftovers for later in the week. So I spent most of my evening cooking because that's just what it was, and doing some stuff for FFSN.
Mine, I ended up with kind of a late lunch at work today, and your story had been out for only a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So I took my lunch and clicked through them all.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And I mean, I kept adding them up through. Oh my goodness. I think I got some in the 3:00 hour. There were still some reporters. I think Mike Prosciutto was the last one I had because he got stuff out later there.
So did you listen to any of them?
Some. I didn't get through the player interviews because I couldn't take the time to listen to what they were saying. More than just, I mean, I could watch it with stuff.
The player interviews I kind of liked. I like Pat Fairmouth. Like what he had to say. Patrick Queen, his was interesting.
I saw the quote because his thing was like, because he was talking about, hey, we're good without Aaron Rodgers, but I was an Aaron Rodgers fan growing up, so I'd love to have him on our team.
Yeah, that was kind of, yes. And it was like, you know what? If there was any way to put it, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
I thought Patrick Queen handled, hey, I'm good with the guys here. They can throw the ball. But, I kind of idolized Aaron Rodgers growing up. Of course I'd want to play on his team. Good, good way to
think
put
about it. It was 15 seasons ago that Rodgers won the Super Bowl against the Steelers. I know I don't want to rub salt in the wounds, but anyway, somebody who's 25 years old playing football, That's what they were watching when they were 10. Think about
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So yeah. So that's why why I get it. Okay. Here's you know what? I'm gonna bring it. I want to include the live chat with a lot of stuff going on today and kind of as we talk about football and shorts, kind of let them kind of steer us in certain directions. Brian Brown brings this up because this was brought up again today, especially because for Atlanta, Kirk Cousins didn't come to their OTAs. They're like, oh, he would like to go to a different team, blah, blah, blah. And Brian Brown says, why do people keep talking about Kirk Cousins? I don't like that. He's an interception waiting to happen. Go Mason. I didn't like Kirk Cousins last year. People are like, you'd want Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins? Yes, absolutely. Not just as the player, but also because of the contract.
Not just the contract, but then what you got to give up because he's under contract.
That's now. I'm saying last year when he was a free agent.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm like, he's going to get that huge contract. Russell Wilson's going to be league minimum. No, Russell Wilson, way better option than Kirk Cousins. So now you want to trade for him and have to pay for the contract that the Falcons came up with? I don't like that.
No.
See, and I kept telling people who were like, oh, Kirk Cousins going into last year. And remember, the Steelers played them week 1. They played the Falcons. I'm like, you don't know what you have with Kirk Cousins because he's coming off that big injury from the year before. And then he didn't play a snap in the preseason. I mean, mainly the Steelers won that game with all field goals, and mainly because Atlanta was crap.
Yeah.
Going up against, especially having to go up against a defense like the Steelers. I mean, you're not going to play your guys at all in preseason and think they're going to be ready to go against the Steelers? As a guy that not only hadn't played for your franchise, but was coming off a major injury, and I don't want the Steelers doing the same kind of deal this year, whether it's Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, or whatever. So, come on in, but we're not going to play in the preseason. No, you're going to, my goodness, as soon as he could, they played Russell Wilson in the preseason last year. Because remember, he did play some and then got hurt again right before we won. So my thing is with Kirk Cousins, I'm not, you're right. What do you give up for him and the contract? And the Steelers have already basically laid it out. They're just looking for a quarterback situation to get them through 2025. And people are like, how is that winning football? When you can't get anybody who's your long-term answer for 2025,
what other choice do you have?
Why try to do it with somebody who's not the answer? Would you rather them invest in somebody who's not the answer or say, no, we're just going to go by on a single year to try to get us from here to there? And that's why the more I think about it, I'm like, Aaron Rodgers does make sense. Could it blow up? Yeah. Could he end up not actually coming? Yeah. But I'm so much more at peace with it than I am now. But I agree. I am not on the Kirk Cousins things because I don't think Aaron Rodgers, because he's older, is all that great. But I think he's better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Significantly. Yeah. I would rather have Mason Rudolph, absolutely, than Kirk Cousins. Would you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Mason has a better arm, and at his age can move better, and used to the Steelers system. There's just so many things that I think he's a much better fit for as the starting quarterback than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's something that's interesting. I don't want to sit here and talk about Kirk Cousins the whole time.
No.
But where was it? Here you go. Brian Brown said, he says every 5 years or so, Cousins has a great year. Rest of the time, not so much. And hey, if you catch him with that one good year, great. But I don't think it's worth that kind of. If the Steelers
not
trade
worth
for
the
him,
roll of the dice.
Nope, new contract. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But back to regular stuff with the Steelers. I'm not super concerned about players that aren't there because I don't think that they're not there for bad reasons. My goodness, DK Metcalf signed a 5-year deal with the Steelers. If he's not there, it's not the end of the world. Someone said it much earlier. They're like, I'm sure he's working plenty hard of stuff. And I think he will be there eventually. you know, like I said, with these guys, if it's mandatory
Look,
mini camp and people aren't there, then you start.
right now, don't be surprised if some of the folks you hear weren't there today. If by tomorrow or Thursday are there, just wouldn't
Or
surprise
next
me a
week.
bit.
Maybe
Right.
this was a bad week. Think about it. Yesterday was a holiday. Did you want to, on the holiday, if you weren't in town, have to make sure you were back in town to then be ready to go the day after if it wasn't mandatory? Now, if you're someone trying to make this team, absolutely, you're going to be at every little
That's
thing.
right.
Before you're supposed to be there, and after you're allowed to leave, because you're trying to make a team. TJ Watt's not trying to make the team. Darius Slay's not trying to make the team. DK Metcalf's not trying to make the team.
And there's a almost 100% chance that every last one of them were in touch with the head coach.
Yeah,
and the
that's
head
the other
coach
thing.
knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah. But here, before we take the break, I do want to say this. Kind of bummed. Thought I was going to have a certain article for tomorrow. Thought I was going to get to bust out my players mentioned article because last year, after the first OTA practice, guess who talked to the media? Mike Tomlin. This year, nothing.
Dude, it was cold and rainy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wanted to just get inside. By the way, that's also the other reason that went early.
Oh,
That
because of
things
the
went
weather?
early day because the weather got worse after noon. It got rainier and colder.
That's a good point. I kept saying to Jeff, "Hey, be ready for tomorrow for stuff like I'm even having to adjust when I'm recording Pittsburgh Standard Time because of when I'm expecting their practice to be done." But that's a really good point. Maybe that they went earlier but tomorrow's supposed to be just as bad, right?
Tomorrow they're going to have it all day. Today the thing was the morning was going to be cloudy and maybe a slight little bit of drizzle here or there. But by noontime, like from noon on, is when they were calling for it to rain. And from noon on here, it rained.
Yeah, I know. Here they overnight and then tomorrow they're like an inch of rain, and we're already super saturated. So it's like, ugh. So
yeah. Speaking of all that rain, I didn't get to tell you before. Dad lost another apple tree due to wind and the rain-soaked ground.
Rain-soaked ground, uprooted?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. When the ground's that soft and the wind comes along, the roots don't have nearly as much to hold on to. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and take our break to come back and talk a little bit more about the excitement and everything going on with football and shorts. Also, during the break, think about it, and while we do the last little bit, this is the week for the live chat to pick our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. So if you have a suggestion, I would just write the number 5, then put it out there. Okay. If you put that there, we'll be able to see it and we'll make sure that we check those. We'll pick one that we think sounds interesting that we could talk about. So we'll do that in the second half. We'll have our big question to close it up. If you're with us here live, don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, Rich, you ready to relax and not worry? Are you not worried about who's not there or maybe even who hasn't signed?
No worries. In those ever famous words of Paul Hogan, aka Crocodile Dundee, no worries, mate.
No worries, mate. There you go. Yeah, I mean, if you talk quarterback, because a lot of people want to talk, bring up Mason and everything, just having some good stuff about that. I mean, the national media over the last couple of weeks, I can't even remember who said it because I didn't listen to it because I didn't care, but I just knew someone else had referred to it where they're like, if the Steelers go into the season with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback, if I was TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, I would refuse to play. Is that not the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, a little bit.
That was really dumb. Because I'm like, why would you waste a year? I mean, those guys are older. It's not like if you rather than come out to play football at age 22, you wait until you're 28 that you're going to get the same number of years because you have so many snaps in you. That's not how it works. You're not going to give up a year. I mean, my goodness, look at Le'Veon Bell and everything with the Steelers. How much, giving up a year is not a good thing. But my point is this: are you going to, if you can get a better quarterback, you're never going to turn that down. That's what can really make you. But you don't have to have the greatest quarterback in order to still see success.
My favorite is Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. Kenny Pickett had a winning record for the Steelers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, and honestly, especially while he was here his last year, people would say, no, Mason's better. Don't bring Kenny back if he's healthy in the playoffs. Stick with Mason. Those kind of things. So, and I'm going to say this. The Eagles last year just needed average quarterback play to win. I've said this several times on different podcasts. Yeah. That's all they needed from Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts gave them anything more than that in the game, that's where they blew people out. That's why the Super Bowl wasn't even close. Because they just needed Jalen Hurts to be an average quarterback, and he had a great game.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why the game wasn't even close. Because they built their team in a way that you didn't have to have the greatest quarterback in the league in order to ever find success. And that's what the Steelers need to continue to do. Honestly, regardless of who's the quarterback this year, and possibly who even is the quarterback next year, the ultimate success of the team is really lying on the defense. That's what's going to drive you. And as I even said, this team, regardless of who's quarterback, is only going to do as well or as poorly as what the offensive line is doing. So,
speaking of
the
offensive line,
I want to talk about that.
you segued it, so we could hop right to it and talk about what we were seeing offensive line wise today.
We got to because one of the things I did for an article at SteelCareerNetwork.com, make sure you're checking out the website, was I say, okay, three things to look for. One is how are players that were injured last year, how are they coming back? Okay, so what did you do? You had Troy Fautanu at right tackle. You had Broderick Jones at left tackle. That's what it's supposed to be now. The question is it going to be any good?
I thought Broderick Jones looked good physically. I thought he looked like start the season physically in terms of, he wasn't carrying any extra weight, looked very large but trim, and was moving very well.
You know what?
What?
That's much different than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought of it in that way, but you're right. You're right. Yeah, and
his personal off-season program picked up this year as compared to last year. I would garner a guess.
Yeah.
So,
well, because think about it. This is your shot, buddy. They're telling you you're the left tackle coming in this year. You don't have to beat out Dan Moore. It's yours. If you don't take it, we're finding somebody else to play.
Right.
So So there it is. So he's there. He's ready to work. Fautanu. I mean, remember when he first got hurt last year, there were reports he could possibly make it back if the Steelers were in the playoffs. But you're not going to bring your first-round draft pick rookie back and throw him out there after being injured all that time.
Right.
So that's exciting. But you got to remember, between those two players, they each only have one NFL start at the position that they're lining up at this year. Fautanu had one last year. And Broderick Jones had one start at left tackle in his rookie year. So, but he did pretty good in that one against the Ravens. So I like to see that sometimes it's hard to tell if a player isn't where they should be when you're looking at football in shorts the very first day. But you can see that a player is where he should be or further in those things. I mean, how many times is it that it was like in years past, oh, Najee Harris is ripped, or oh my goodness, look at even Jalen Warren, I can't believe the how big is his arms, or people talking about the ham hocks of somebody out there that they just couldn't believe. That's the kind of stuff that'll sometimes jump out with football and shorts.
Well, the other one that jumped out, football and shorts, would to me, from what I was seeing today, was from another one of those injured guys, and that was again just like
You gonna hit the next one I was gonna bring up?
the foot quickness and just overall speed from Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson, yes,
Yeah, I thought I was like, oh, he's good. That's what I got from what I got to see of him today. It's like, oh, good to go. Looks like he is ready to hit the ground running. And honestly, another guy that looks like he's worked pretty hard in the offseason, because, see, I think he's got that extra little push of not playing last year that, hey, I got to come out of the gate and prove myself and earn a spot.
Yeah, because I did this article a while ago, because honestly it was an unpopular opinion. So it was a podcast. You all might have already heard me say this, that it was because it's where Jeff said, hey, the Steelers don't have to sign another wide receiver. And I'm like, but isn't that just doing the same? Aren't they in the same boat they were last year? The one difference is Roman Wilson.
Right.
If Roman Wilson is what you would want a third-round draft pick to be in year two, even though he didn't really play in year one, handful of snaps, no targets, stuff like that, then you're talking about a whole different story. Now, another one I was going to bring up that Afton said, but Brian asked about, he said, what about Cole Holcomb? Did you see anything with Cole Holcomb?
I did not.
I didn't either. So that's one that I'm curious about, because he's one I really don't know where he stands with the Steelers. Are they looking at him as, hey, he was hurt a lot, he's not going to ever quite be himself, but he could give us some good quality depth? Or is, hey, this is a guy, he's going to get right back to what he was pre-injury? If that's the case, my goodness, look out for that inside linebacker core for the Steelers.
Yeah, that's one that we may not have a whole lot of answers on him until we get more into minicamp. Then we might start to get a little better answer on Cole Holcomb. The only reason I kind of can bring up the other two is because, Fautanu and Roman Wilson, is because we know what their injuries were, and we, Holcomb's was a pretty serious injury that he's come back from. So I think it's going to take a little more time to totally figure out where he is exactly.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's just, I don't know. There's only so many things you can take in. What about this person? What about that person? And everything, to be like, yeah, that's really what they were doing. So I don't know. I mean, and it's interesting because a lot of people are like, well, was Roman Wilson in the slot? Is Calvin Austin in the slot? Oh, Calvin Austin's got to be a slot guy. Calvin Austin, he lined up in the slot last year, but he lined up wide a lot too. So, he's not someone. I mean, I think Calvin Austin played the outside, even though he was small, but because he was fast in college. But when you've got guys like George Pickens and Mike Williams and Van Jefferson, you might not be the easiest guy to find snaps, lining up wide. Calvin Austin could be another guy that's out there wide. And of course, we know that there's also the chance they could add another wide receiver. But yeah, Roman Wilson, him and Calvin Austin being there and probably being, Robert Woods was another guy that I saw.
Yep.
When you're looking at it, they're probably a couple guys that are doing good to get a little bit more of these reps.
Yeah, and just a little bit, I saw Robert Woods. He's going to be a nice little addition. Play some snaps. Really good possession type receiver. He's that guy that on 3rd and 6 you can get to and get a first down kind of thing. I think that's going to work out just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll I don't know. It's funny because the biggest complaints people have, did the Steelers really upgrade in the places that they needed to? At quarterback and wide receiver. Well, wide receiver, they got DK Metcalf, but then traded away Pickens. But then there's the whole addition by subtraction, blah, blah, blah. We can debate that till we're blue in the face. If they added somebody else, if they're going to, don't just bring in another guy that's just going to be, maybe he'll make the team. Don't give me another Robert Woods. If you're going to add another wide receiver, actually go get one or roll with what you got.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. Same with quarterback. To me, go big or go home. And there really was no go big option this year. So that's why maybe the Steelers will just, squeeze into the playoffs and after one game, go home. It could be another one of those seasons. We really don't know. Hey, I will say last call for anyone with any suggestions, if you wanted to put it out there for our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk before we move on to that. So I'm just excited that it's the 2025 Steelers that we're seeing out there together, practicing, even though it's football and choice. Do you, anything more you want to say about that?
Just it's way better to see them out there as a team than just seeing individual guys here and there working out.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Well,
because a lot of guys post out there, put their workout, their off-season workout stuff. You get stuff on their Instagram or TikTok or wherever and that. But it's a little different when they step out on the field as a team.
yeah.
So,
Well, and here's the other thing. So now we're into phase 3 of OTAs and then minicamp. I'm actually excited about the 6/8 weeks of nothing. Because when you hit that time of nothing, that means what's on the horizon is so big in training camp. Because at training camp, that's when you can see, okay, where is Cole Holcomb in the pecking order to have an idea of what the Steelers are thinking about, what he can do at this point of his career. Which wide receivers are getting a little bit of play here and there at training camp, because we can get it all, because fans are there and we can get the information. So there's nothing that's really held back with them. So one thing that people are talking about now, big conversation now coming up about Rock Taylor. Like a big pun says, I have higher hopes for Rock Taylor than Roman Wilson. Okay. That's a hot take. I'm going to give you my hot take. Rock Taylor does well if he gets the practice squad. If he comes out and balls out and he shows that he's some great player, but you have higher hopes for an undrafted rookie than you do for a 3rd round draft pick coming into his 2nd year. That just doesn't make sense logically. Now, it'd be great if you find a diamond in the rough with an undrafted rookie free agent. That would be great. But to kind of have that kind of expectation when there's still football in shorts, when it's one practice of OTAs, wow, that's an awful lot to put on a guy. So, yeah, I wasn't even considering Rock Taylor whenever I did my first 53-man roster prediction. But that was also when the Steelers still had George Pickens on the roster, so that was a whole different story. So there was a little bit of discussion about Rock Taylor going on there with stuff. So, all right. So football in shorts, yes, but it's going to be much more than what we're going to get after these 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I know. I'm sorry. I got to bring it up because I'm like, I'm hoping this isn't with a straight face. Roman had his shot. I'm sorry. That's hilarious. Maybe I should give you a 5-minute timeout for that one for being such a bad take. He had his shot with a high in draft status and he failed. The dude was injured. He got injured on the first padded practice. It was Corey Trice 2.0. Got injured in the first padded practice of training camp. Oh, that's funny to say that he had his shot. That's hilarious. No, right now, if you're talking about if the Steelers are lining up to do 11 on 11 drills today, I could all but guarantee Roman Wilson might have been out there with the first group with no DK Metcalf. Yeah, Rock Taylor didn't come anywhere close to that. So I would be great if it worked out. But I'm sorry, that was Rich. You didn't laugh at that. And then he wants to compare it to Lima Swede. Lima Swede actually played and was not good. You know, kind of like Sammy Coates, you know, but you're talking about having his shot with a guy that was hurt and then therefore just couldn't get there. That's kind of funny. All right. You good?
Sure.
What do you want for our 5 minutes? You've been looking through some of them.
Oh, you can take a peek.
Okay. We could talk about garden produce. My answer there would be none. I'm not a vegetable person. Big Pun wanted to talk about the Pirates, or we have John S. that's asking about since we're on the halfway to Thanksgiving. If you want to talk about Thanksgiving, so what do you think, Rich?
I thought it was funny. Exactly 6 months from Thanksgiving, and we don't get 5 minutes of non-Steeler talk during the season. So let's go with that one.
Okay, let's do it. So let me actually bring it up. John S. said we are exactly 6 months from Thanksgiving, and we don't get 5. Oh yeah, he said that. Okay. So what are your Thanksgiving traditions as we celebrate half Thanksgiving, bro?
Ours have changed a little bit here and there through the years, but over the last...
Oh, wait. I got to start the 5 minutes.
Over the last, 7-8 years now, the tradition has been...
We go to see Big Bro.
Everybody except our older sister's family, everybody else. So Dave's family, my younger sister's family, parents, everybody come here to my house. And... I cook the turkey and the stuffing. We take care of the mashed potatoes and gravy, and then everybody else brings stuff, and we feast and watch football.
When do we eat? It's important. When do we eat?
It's varied, but typically between 12 and 1.
Yeah, so we do it as the midday meal. I know some people do it as an evening meal. Not us. We are eating and watching the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Not the Dallas Cowboys. That's what you eat at dinner time.
Yeah. We are food and football.
Well, I will say this. Okay. Part of you were going to do it anyway, but I know that I said to you, I'm like, Rich, if you're willing to do it, I'll really push the issue. But as our parents got older, I'm like, they can't have everyone for Thanksgiving. What do you think about doing it at your place? And you were ready for it. You knew that, especially at the time, I was the one that could convince our parents better that it was better to do it that way. And we kind of tag teamed that to get that set up.
I will say, because the first year we were back here, we still had it at Mom and Dad's.
Yeah, we did.
Partly because we couldn't have it here, because Thanksgiving afternoon we were moving into our house.
Yes.
And we were tricking people into coming over and helping.
Yes. Now that was also still when I had to do two. I used to do two Thanksgivings because both my parents and my wife's parents were lived not far from each other. So I would be at either mom and dad's and then even later yours for the noon meal, and then have to go to my in-laws for the evening meal. Which was funny because I don't know if you ever noticed this, my wife didn't eat much at yours because then she would eat the stuff at her parents, mainly because I told her, I'm like, I can't really have much else to eat because I'm going to go crazy at mom and dad's or Rich's. So she would say, I'll take one for the team, because honestly, they didn't know if it, not like my mother-in-law's listening to this podcast. She doesn't even have internet. And my father-in-law's passed away. But that's what we used to do. And that was, more there. They wouldn't even stuff their turkey. I'm like, your turkey never tastes. Part of the whole reason you stuff your turkey is to get the flavor with cooking the turkey.
Agreed.
Yeah. That's why you got to make sure you have the right amount of like onion and things like that in your stuffing. Not because you want over oniony stuffing, is that those kind of things from the stuffing cook into the bird, and that helps season the bird. So, but you don't deep fry, and you bake.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know Jeff deep fries and stuff like that. So,
Nope. And I make a good turkey. So,
yep.
Other traditions is Dave's wife is not allowed into my house if she does not bring her famous snickerdoodles.
Yeah, my wife does not cook, but my wife bakes. And she has her mother's snickerdoodle recipe, and people even try to duplicate it and can't.
Can't do it.
I mean,
We've tried. We can't do it.
they get softer over time. Like, you don't want to eat them right out of the oven. They're better. Like, she has to make them the day before or even the day before that for them to actually hit their peak excellence.
Yeah.
So, and Kyle doesn't do a lot of sweets, but that's one of the things that he likes. So.
Yep.
Man, Big Pun just wants to be a buzzkill with everything today. This about he says that stuffing the turkey is number one cause of salmonella poisoning due to it causing uneven cooking. That means you don't know how to cook it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we do. It's to me, but honestly, you know what makes it all? What really makes Thanksgiving the whole turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes? What makes it all? Because I use it for all of it. Is good gravy. You've got to have good gravy.
That's right.
So, one thing I will say before
one last thing, I will answer Afton's question. She asked if I buy my turkey or hunt it. I buy it. Wild turkeys do not make the greatest Thanksgiving turkey.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a wild turkey, the dark meat on it is excellent. The white meat on it, not near as good. So that's why I buy.
Yes, and honestly, I was going to add that we started a tradition here at my house for Thanksgiving that we go up. We do Thanksgiving with you. My wife's big tradition always was watching the parade. We actually DVR the parade and don't watch it on Thanksgiving. We go up, spend the day up there with you all and family. We come home, we wake up Friday morning, and we treat it like Thanksgiving, like our own individual Thanksgiving. We do the turkey, we do the turkey, watch the parade, all this stuff. So we have our own turkey, and I'll be honest with you, I cook just the turkey breast because my family, we don't eat dark meat. My daughter says that she does, but she hardly eats anything anyway. So she's not enough to count. So we actually just do the turkey breast because we don't want to have all the rest of it go to waste. Yep. And it's funny because this is a good way to ask. John S. wants to know if your Christmas tree is up that weekend.
Tree is up, lights on. Normally not decorated, but it was last year because of how late Thanksgiving was.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was
and late. What our schedule was in my house after Thanksgiving. So Normally it's just tree with lights, and then we decorate it that weekend, but could not. By the way, I was waiting for someone to say this. Brent Howe says he drinks his wild
He
turkey.
drinks his wild turkey.
As I was sitting there and the whole thing came about the wild turkey, I was like, somebody's going to.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brent.
Yeah. So that's, and someone had said cranberry sauce. I'm allergic, so it doesn't do anything
Yeah.
for me. So, and you know, also we mentioned gravy. I know we're going over a little bit. We mentioned gravy. Some people do is it giblets or giblets?
I don't know.
Like, is it GIF or GIF? You know,
Yeah.
I always said giblets, but I don't like that kind of gravy. It's you're making gravy from the drippings from the turkey in the pan.
Yep.
Yep. And honestly, your daughter's gravy
She does a
has
good job.
fantastic flavor. She's often sometimes struggles with getting the right texture and consistency, but it doesn't matter because the flavor is always amazing.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's what matters.
Yep.
So, all right.
So yeah. So
Time to get
for
off
me, you asked about
Thanksgiving.
me with my tree. My tree's up way before that. My yard's decorated November 1st.
Oh,
That's
yard
what I
decorations. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
No,
go sooner. Yeah.
yeah.
So we can. That's a whole different subject. We can get into another time. So I used to be a big stickler of no Christmas until Thanksgiving, and then my wife I told her I gave her a 1-year trial where we could start it right after Halloween, and said if it took away from it, then nope, I'm not. I won't. I'll give you one time trying it out. Dude, best thing ever happened. The Christmas season's not long enough. Extend it as long as you can. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Mine's just having time to get everything done, honestly.
Yeah. See, when we were kids, we always wanted snow for Thanksgiving because we would get together at the hunting camp with the families that were going to be hunting out there, like our dad and his hunting guys. And we would do Thanksgiving together out there. We were kids and had a phenomenal sled riding hill. So we always wanted snow on Thanksgiving. Didn't get it often, but the couple times we did, it was good stuff.
Phenomenal.
Yes. So, all right, Rich, are we ready for the big question?
Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Sure, we can be ready for the big question.
Rich, do you have a big question? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And you're going to have you could actually have two different directions they could take this. Okay.
Okay.
So it would be your biggest surprise at either who was or was not at day one of OTAs today.
There you go. That's a great one. So to me, my biggest surprise of who was or wasn't at OTAs, and some of these we just don't know. I'm going to say, honestly, I was surprised that DK Metcalf wasn't there. Just because new to the team, and it's not like he's a, over 30 guy. I mean, he might have a very good reason. I hope he shows up soon. But especially coming in and signing that big contract that you chose to be with the Steelers, I was surprised that he wasn't there. How about you?
I'm actually going to go to one we talked about, and I was surprised to see Cam Hayward today. I expected to see Cam Hayward at some point during this, but was surprised he was here on day one.
Yeah.
Especially with yesterday being a holiday.
Yes. Like I said, because there might be guys there tomorrow that weren't there today to say like, hey,
Yeah.
I've got something over the weekend for the holiday. I'm going to travel on Tuesday. I'll be there Wednesday. Brian Brown says Minka. Was Minka there?
I don't think he was, honestly. I think Brian Brown could be correct.
So
I'm not
I don't
sure
know if he was saying he was surprised that he was,
or if he was there.
Hi, Brian. We need some help.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't see anything with him there, but I didn't hear about him not being there.
Yeah.
But he could have just been one that they couldn't mention.
That's true. That's true. Because I didn't see much in the secondary. Honestly, I'm like, did I even see anything with Joey Porter Jr.? Did I really even? That's why I didn't know about Slay. with that. Afton said she was surprised that Cam was there. Big Pun said he was surprised Patrick Queen showed up.
I don't know. The only reason I wasn't Big Pun was just because that inside linebacker room's gotten a little more crowded than it has been in the past. And I think Patrick Queen, I think also, I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason he's showing up then today too is because he is in year 2, I think, wanting to step up and be more of a leader on the team.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah. John S. said he was surprised, like me, about DeKalin Zacharias Metcalf. Okay. I don't think this was his answer, but I will say it that Gene said not surprised about Queen. Gene Smith said that. If you have a different one, Gene, go ahead and put it in there. I'll bring it up.
go ahead and bring up Pittsburgh Toddy.
Pittsburgh
That's
Tommy
pretty
says
funny.
he was surprised that Rodgers isn't licking toads. Who's to say that he was?
That's right.
Brian Brown said that he heard that Minka was there. These are hard to
Okay.
confirm early on, but yeah, that if Minka was there, I would actually be. Would you be more surprised if Minka was or wasn't there?
I don't think he's one that I would be okay with either way.
Yeah,
He's another one that if he wasn't there today but slid in tomorrow because he was like, hey, we had this going on over the holiday and,
yeah.
you know.
This might be I mean, if our show was Thursday night after the first week, this would probably even be a better question there.
Probably.
Yeah. But TD, Ton Dessenberger said Cordero Patterson. Well, he said Cord Patterson, but that's Cordero. Because Reginald Rivers asked about Patterson. People said I didn't see him in, did you notice him I noticed there's a couple things that showed running backs, but I didn't necessarily see him.
Yeah, I didn't notice him either. And usually I do because he's so freaking tall
Compared to the rest of the running
compared
backs.
to the rest of the running backs. So
And
I'm not
honestly,
sure if he was there today.
If he wasn't, it's because they might just release him because dude, he's not going to make the team.
Yeah, I doubt
I mean,
he was.
I didn't see. I mean, there's a bunch of people that I was curious about that I just didn't see. Was Brandon Eccles there? Okay, Beanie Bishop was there because he talked.
Yes.
Okay, was Joey Porter Jr. there? I don't remember seeing anything with that. Was who was the other one I was going to say? Did you see the running back that they signed? Well, I can't remember his name from the Eagles.
Yes. Gainwell.
Yes, Kenneth Gainwell. Was he there? Okay.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that one clip of them showing the running backs going through drills, I'm pretty sure I saw him there.
Yeah. So that was one that I didn't think about him to even look for him until now. And like I
Right.
said, I didn't get to do all the clips because I was doing stuff. Big Pun wanted to know, was Malik Harrison there? Like I said, I didn't even see Cole Holcomb to know.
Right.
To know if Harrison was there. Gene Smith says Muth was there.
Yes,
That
he was.
I think that was his answer. Was there an answer that Muth was there? Was your surprise or not? Because Gene Smith had also said before that Queen right now is still wearing the dot. And it's funny because Brian Brown says, just because I heard it doesn't mean it's true. You're right. He said YouTube is full of ridiculous Steelers information. Just you get out there on social media. That's why I have a Steelers list that I do, that I keep it to just media members, because I don't want other outside things of people saying something that actually isn't true that then gets in there. That's why I keep it there. And Gene Smith says Holcomb was there. So that was pretty good. So yeah, to me, and what would surprise me, but I wouldn't know about it, if there's a player that, possibly wouldn't even make the team, wasn't there. I'm thinking like someone that I didn't even think to look for was okay. Brent Towell says not surprised Cam was there, leads by example. But was someone like Isaiah Loudermilk there? Not that I care enough about him that someone, was the Marvin Leal there coming back off of injury? He's a guy, man, I didn't even mention in my article. He's a guy that missed so much of the season due to injury. We sometimes forget about. It's interesting to see where he is with everything. That was a neck injury. Is he back? Is he all right? Was he there? I don't even know. But Gene did say that that his surprise was Holcomb. So, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, Tarkstorm says about his co-worker's a Steeler fan, but she always buys whatever crap news story she sees on social media. 95% of them are pure BS, which is true.
Yes.
I mean, if you're not filtering stuff properly, you're going to get a lot of interesting stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to bust them a little bit because they're a friend of the program. They got podcasts on FFSN, and that's Steelers Now with Alan Saunders. Sometimes it's not usually Alan's articles, although he's in charge of everything. They give some misleading headlines at times. Like they'll say like NFL Insider thinks Aaron Rodgers is blah, 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 blah. Or report. No, they don't even say things. They say report. Aaron Rodgers is making a decision in the next 2 weeks. That's not a report. It was actually an insider's opinion. Like, I think if he's going to decide, it's going to be here soon. And then they run it as a report that's when he's deciding because the headline said so. But when you read the story didn't say that. So, but they're not giving you incorrect information even within the article. You're going to get stuff from other places that's just flat up. Sometimes seems like it's made up, or they hear a rumor of somebody that just makes up that just is saying something, and they run with it as being legit. So, did I miss anything else here?
No.
Okay, Rich. Maybe I should say this. We do have a programming note. Steel City Insider is not going to be tomorrow. It is coming this week. So if you don't see it tomorrow, it's not that it's because they were off last week. It's not tomorrow. It's going to be out sometime on Thursday. So it's going to be an extra show thrown in on Thursday because of stuff going on with OTAs and everything with Jim and Jeremy. That's when they're going to be recording. So we'll have something else to fill out the time slot, but it will be coming. It'll just be a day later. So if you look for that one, make sure you check that one out. Other than that, we should have all our same lineup for podcasts. Make sure you check it out, steelcurtainnetwork.com for all the good information that we have doing there. Jeff and I, we're working hard to get out there. I know you see our names on a lot of stuff, but that's just kind of how it goes at times. Man, I'm looking forward to getting more information and maybe seeing a little bit of different people at practice tomorrow. Maybe catching some players that you didn't necessarily see before. Rich, what do you have to say to close this out tonight?
It's nice to be back to football in shorts. Next comes football in pads.
Yeah.
And after that becomes football games. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.